Nothing destroys a family tree faster than an entitled relative treating you like a personal ATM. Prepare yourself for 55 absolute worst-case scenarios of family members demanding cash for bizarre reasons. These shocking stories of financial manipulation and absurd invoices will permanently change how you handle your next family reunion. 1. Engagement rings are notoriously expensive, leading one desperate cousin to attempt a highly illegal family redistribution of wealth. He secretly swiped his grandmother's antique diamond brooch during a Sunday dinner, fully planning to pry the gems out for a custom proposal ring. Caught entirely red-handed in the hallway, he furiously defended the blatant theft as a proactive inheritance advance. He completely believed that stealing jewelry to secure a fiancé was a romantic, noble act that the family should quietly applaud instead of immediately threatening police involvement. 2. Emergency rent money is a classic family trap, but one guy's cousin really elevated the grift into an art form. He sent a frantic Tuesday text begging for $800 to avoid immediate eviction, which was stupidly transferred over out of guilt. Less than 48 hours later, the cousin's Instagram story showed him ordering premium bottle service at a downtown club. When confronted, his rock-solid defense was that the luxury clubbing was essential mental health self-care to cope with the severe stress of almost being homeless. 3. A frustrated guy in an online forum shared that his parents unexpectedly asked him to start making the hefty monthly payments on their brand new luxury RV. They didn't frame it as a loan or a temporary favor, but as retroactive back rent for the 18 years he selfishly lived in their house as a literal child. The sheer audacity to treat raising your own offspring like a predatory landlord arrangement is just staggering. It really makes you wonder if they ever plan to charge him compound interest on his baby formula and diapers. 4. Every family has that one delusional aunt who thinks anyone working with computers is basically Elon Musk. She cornered her nephew Mark at Thanksgiving, aggressively insisting he buy her 10-year-old a PlayStation 5 just because he makes that sweet tech money. Mind you, this is the exact same woman who gifts Mark a severely expired bath bomb every single Christmas. The bold entitlement of demanding a $500 gaming console while actively contributing lavender-scented chemical burns to his life is truly a fascinating strategy. 5. Financing a relative's brilliant business idea almost never ends well. Take the story of a younger sibling whose older brother wanted 50 grand for a revolutionary crypto venture he entirely conceptualized while unemployed on the family couch. Refusing the ridiculous pitch triggered a massive, window-rattling screaming match. The absolute cherry on top was the supposed entrepreneur storming out in a rage, slamming the front door and then texting 5 minutes later from the driveway, asking if someone could spot him $20 for his Uber ride home. 6. Nothing screams financial responsibility louder than spending emergency repair money on permanent body art. An office worker loaned his cousin $400 specifically to fix a blown radiator so the guy could finally commute to his warehouse job. The very next week, the cousin posted a photo of a massive, fresh gladiator tattoo on his calf, while still begging relatives for rides. 7. Fitness goals usually require personal dedication, but a completely out-of-shape cousin decided his physical health was actually an extended family financial obligation. He mass-texted 7 relatives demanding they pool together $300 a month for his elite country club gym membership. His core argument was that looking at his unfit physique at Thanksgiving ruined their appetites, so sponsoring his luxury workouts was a culinary investment for the whole family. Would you even reply to a text that essentially blackmails you with someone else's poor cardio habits? 8. Priorities can get wildly distorted when relatives view each other as personal ATMs. A grown man actually asked his sibling to cover his monthly court-ordered child support payment because he had an urgent, non-negotiable expense. That critical emergency was buying the brand new iPhone Pro Max on launch day. He unironically argued that he desperately needed the upgraded camera system to take better mirror selfies for his Tinder profile, confidently claiming his active dating life was a crucial investment in his future happiness. 9. Grandparents usually know exactly what they are doing when they finalize a will. A guy named Dave inherited a decent lump sum from his grandfather, while his older brother was left precisely $0. The brother immediately demanded half the cash in the name of familial fairness. He conveniently glossed over the tiny fact that Grandpa explicitly cut him out of the will 5 years ago for stealing and pawning his vintage riding lawnmower to pay off a gambling debt. Fairness is apparently highly subjective when cold hard cash is involved. 10. Investing in an uncle's sure-thing side hustle is a costly rite of passage everyone should actively avoid. One hapless nephew faced a demand for a $10,000 loan to import heavily discounted, sketchy energy drinks. When he reasonably asked to see a basic spreadsheet or literally any written business plan, the uncle acted like his ancestors had been deeply insulted, branding the nephew a brainwashed corporate sellout. 11. Finding love is hard, but financing it for someone else is pure insanity. A young guy was absolutely baffled when his older brother demanded a full year of Tinder Platinum. The brother confidently argued his chronic single status embarrassed the family, meaning his premium swiping was actually a vital public relations expense. He even threatened to skip holidays if his subscription was not instantly funded. 12. Sibling rivalries often reach peak absurdity when corporate promotions are involved. One woman finally landed a high-paying director role after years of grueling, sleep-deprived overtime. Her younger brother's immediate reaction was not to offer congratulations, but to present her with a fully drafted, itemized invoice for his upcoming 6-week backpacking trip across Europe. He passionately argued that, since she would now be way too busy working to enjoy any leisure travel, it was only biologically fair to fund his vacation so he could experience the world on her behalf. He genuinely pitched this financial shakedown as a noble, selfless sacrifice to help his older sister avoid any potential FOMO. 13. Receiving an inheritance from a distant relative is a rare blessing. However, one man experienced pure chaos when his estranged sister found out about the cash. She showed up at his office and demanded half the money to launch a custom candle business. When he politely declined, she loudly claimed he was hoarding generational wealth and destroying her entrepreneurial destiny. Trying to shame your sibling in a corporate lobby over scented wax is an unforgettable level of entitlement. 14. The infamous child-free tax is a very real, incredibly frustrating phenomenon in certain households. A guy named Kevin faced the absolute wrath of his older sister simply because he chose not to have kids and bought himself a shiny new motorcycle. She publicly complained on her Facebook page that his disposable income rightfully belonged to her 3 screaming toddlers to seed their future college funds. She literally accused her own brother of stealing educational opportunities from his nephews by choosing to purchase a Harley-Davidson. Have you ever noticed how your personal bank account magically transforms into communal family property the exact minute a relative decides to procreate? 15. Asking for an inheritance from someone whose heart is currently still beating is a special brand of financial psychopathy. An elderly aunt was cornered at a casual family barbecue by her 30-something nephew, who calmly suggested she just liquidate her entire retirement portfolio right now to buy him a speedboat. His horrific defense was that she was getting way too old to enjoy the money anyway, so it made perfect logistical sense to transfer the wealth while he was still young enough to water ski. The absolute sheer nerve to calculate a family member's expiration date over a fiberglass recreational vehicle is chilling on a level that defies basic human logic. 16. Dealing with a formerly pampered golden child hitting harsh financial reality is pure, unadulterated comedic gold. One woman's parents finally cut off her endless, unconditional allowance right at the age of 30. In a blind panic, she drove straight to her estranged brother's house and demanded he permanently finance her premium lip fillers and monthly Botox appointments. Her completely sincere justification was that looking incredibly expensive was vital to her personal brand identity, and as her brother, he was legally obligated to maintain her standard of living. It is undeniably wild how quickly desperate siblings try to deputize each other as emergency backup parents. 17. A broke college student wisely decided to cancel his premium television subscriptions to save a few bucks on his incredibly tight monthly budget. His uncle, who had been secretly leeching off the login credentials for 3 solid years, called the student in a screaming fit of rage. The older man didn't just demand the passwords be instantly reinstated. He insanely insisted the student start Venmoing him $15 a month so he could buy his own private account, loudly claiming the sudden cancellation caused him severe emotional distress and ruined his weekend binge-watching schedule. 18. Traffic violations somehow bring out the absolute worst, most mind-numbing entitlement imaginable. A young professional was relentlessly harassed by his cousin to pay a massive stack of unpaid speeding tickets and overdue parking fines. The cousin's core argument? The professional drove a safe, reliable Honda Civic, meaning he clearly had extra cash, whereas the cousin drove a loud, heavily modified sports car that allegedly attracted unfair, targeted police attention. He seriously believed his reckless, high-speed driving habits were a systemic injustice that his law-abiding relative was morally and financially obligated to subsidize just to keep the family dynamics fair and balanced. 19. Acts of immense generosity are frequently rewarded with the most baffling invoices ever conceived. A couple graciously let the husband's sister stay in their fully furnished backyard guesthouse, absolutely rent-free for 6 months to help her get back on her feet. Instead of a heartfelt thank you note upon leaving, she presented them with a formal bill for property management and overnight security services. She claimed her mere physical presence on the estate effectively deterred local burglars, completely ignoring the fact she slept until noon every single day and never once locked the driveway gate. How do you even politely respond to someone attempting to monetize their own shameless freeloading? 20. Secret Santa exchanges are supposed to be lighthearted fun, but they often expose the absolute greediest relatives in the room. During a family Christmas draw with a strict $20 spending limit, one niece refused to participate unless everyone agreed to give her pure cash. She set a mandatory, non-negotiable minimum of $200 per person, aggressively stating that cheap, thoughtful gifts cluttered her minimalist aesthetic, and she was currently manifesting a massive down payment on a Tesla. Turning a festive, cozy holiday tradition into a hostile venture capital pitch is a truly remarkable way to permanently ruin the month of December for everyone involved. 21. When a bright high school senior secured a full-ride academic scholarship, his aunt immediately swooped in with a brilliant financial proposal. She demanded his parents redirect the now unused college savings into funding her luxury Mediterranean cruise. Her wild logic was that since the family had already budgeted to lose that money, spending it on her 2-week vacation was basically a victimless crime. It takes a truly special kind of delusion to treat a teenager's academic success as your own personal travel grant. 22. Helping someone move is a standard family favor, but one guy tried to monetize his minimal physical labor. After helping his older brother carry exactly one cheap IKEA sofa up a flight of stairs, he seriously asked to be put on the property deed. He argued that his heavy lifting constituted a critical sweat equity investment in the new home. When told absolutely not, he aggressively demanded an $800 moving fee. Have you ever seen someone try to extort real estate equity over a sectional? 23. Personal accountability completely vanished when a 22-year-old received a massive speeding ticket in a school zone. Instead of paying it, he confidently handed the citation to his bewildered grandfather. His defense was a masterclass in deflection. Since the grandfather gifted him the used sedan 3 years ago, the vehicle was technically still his spiritual liability. He sincerely argued that giving a young man a car was basically a binding contract to cover all future moving violations. 24. Hosting a fancy dinner party is supposed to be a generous gesture, but one woman turned it into a hostile financial negotiation. When a guy invited his cousin over for a fully catered steak dinner, she immediately demanded $80 to cover her babysitter. She firmly insisted that since he wanted the absolute pleasure of her company, he was morally obligated to cover all her logistical expenses. How fast would you permanently revoke an invitation after receiving a mandatory childcare invoice? 25. Thanksgiving dinners are usually just mildly annoying, but one uncle turned the holiday into a hostile billing cycle. After spending an hour trapping his nephew in the kitchen to deliver unsolicited, terrible advice about day trading penny stocks, the uncle actually sent him an invoice. He tried to charge a $200 consultation fee for his financial wisdom. He was completely deadpan, insisting his entrepreneurial mindset was a highly valuable premium service. What is the appropriate legal response to a rogue family invoice for terrible conversation? 26. Earning a major promotion at work usually means celebratory drinks, not funding someone else's impulsive lifestyle. Yet, a woman's younger sister saw the salary bump as a direct opportunity to demand a $3,000 French bulldog. The sister argued that since she couldn't afford children, a premium purebred puppy was her biological right, and her newly promoted sibling was morally obligated to sponsor this furry addition to the family tree. Refusal meant being labeled a heartless monster who hated animals and family bonding. 27. Scratch-off lottery tickets are supposed to be cheap stocking stuffers. A guy bought one for himself at a gas station, scratched it in the passenger seat of his brother's car, and won $500. The brother instantly slammed on the brakes and demanded half the winnings. His ironclad reasoning was that the ticket was scratched inside his personal vehicle, creating a magical microeconomy where he was entitled to a 50% venue tax. 28. Wedding registries usually consist of blenders and towels, but a future mother-in-law had a much grander vision. She cornered the groom a month before the ceremony and heavily suggested he pay for her extensive facial laser resurfacing as a special family initiation fee. She claimed that looking youthful in the permanent wedding photos was a direct benefit to his future legacy, making it a perfectly reasonable expense for the groom. The sheer confidence to ask for a cosmetic facelift as a dowry is staggering. 29. Crashing a borrowed vehicle is a nightmare, but a younger brother found a creative way to make it worse. After totaling his sister's parked sedan while backing out of the driveway, he intercepted the insurance conversation. He seriously suggested she pocket the payout and buy him a high-end gaming PC instead of replacing her actual mode of transportation. He firmly believed she could just take the bus to her corporate job so he could finally play Call of Duty at a higher frame rate. 30. Showing up to celebrate a milestone is basic family etiquette, yet one relative tried to monetize his attendance. A notoriously lazy uncle demanded his nephew pay him a daily per diem rate to attend his university graduation ceremony. The uncle argued that sitting in the hot sun for 3 hours was physically draining labor that kept him away from his lucrative weekend side hustles. He genuinely treated watching his own flesh and blood accept a diploma like a miserable freelance gig that required hazard pay. 31. Credit scores are apparently viewed as communal property in some households. One woman dealt with a spectacular tantrum from her younger sister, who was furious over a refused cosign on a luxury downtown loft lease she absolutely could not afford. The sister's entire argument rested on the absurd premise that an excellent credit score was being selfishly wasted on a modest lifestyle. She genuinely believed an 800 FICO rating was just sitting in a drawer, gathering dust, crying out to be utterly ruined by her inevitable missed payments. 32. One of the most spectacular displays of audacity involved an older brother who randomly quit his stable plumbing job to become a professional ghost hunter. Instead of saving up for this bizarre career transition, he aggressively cornered his younger sister to finance $10,000 worth of thermal cameras and spirit boxes. When she logically refused to fund his paranormal midlife crisis, he accused her of being a closed-minded skeptic who actively wanted him to be haunted. 33. Nobody ever expects to be formally extorted over a tiny aquarium, but a college sophomore experienced exactly that during spring break. She asked her aunt to drop a single flake of food into a tiny bowl once a day while she visited Florida. The aunt happily agreed, only to present an itemized invoice for animal husbandry and aquatic stress management upon her return. She seriously demanded $75 for the severe, emotional labor of remembering to keep a $2 carnival goldfish alive for exactly 72 hours. 34. The sheer nerve of some in-laws truly defies the basic laws of physics and common sense. A husband and wife carefully saved for 3 years to afford a romantic, secluded anniversary cabin in the snowy mountains. The mother-in-law completely bypassed asking to join and simply demanded they upgrade to a massive luxury lodge so she could bring her knitting group. She argued that hoarding a beautiful view for only 2 people was deeply selfish and expected them to entirely subsidize a senior citizen winter retreat disguised as a romantic getaway. 35. Sometimes, relative logic operates in an entirely different dimension of financial reality. An uncle who had historically borrowed and never returned at least $4,000 over a decade suddenly requested another emergency cash loan for a recreational jet ski. When his nephew firmly brought up the massive outstanding debt, the uncle casually waved it off as ancient history. He sincerely proposed wiping the slate completely clean and starting a brand new credit relationship, acting like his past financial crimes had simply expired under a convenient family statute of limitations. 36. A woman named Sarah had a sister-in-law who seriously demanded she cover the entire catering bill for a lavish destination wedding in Maui. The bride's logic was absolutely flawless, by the way. She pointed out that since Sarah was completely single and living in a modest one-bedroom apartment, she obviously had zero real expenses. When Sarah politely declined to sponsor 80 strangers eating premium coconut shrimp, she was loudly accused of hoarding wealth. Honestly, how long would you laugh before finally hanging up the phone on that bizarre conversation? 37. A destroyed smartphone is usually a personal tragedy, but one guy magically turned his own clumsiness into a family invoice. After accidentally dropping his brand new device down a storm drain while filming a parkour video, a younger brother marched into his sister's apartment demanding her credit card. He claimed she owed him a premium replacement because she failed to specifically warn him about the dangers of gravity that morning. He literally blamed his total lack of basic spatial awareness on her negligence as an older sibling. 38. Dietary choices are highly personal, unless you are a newly converted vegan aunt who views other people's wallets as fair game. After adopting a strict organic lifestyle, she sent a typed letter to her nieces and nephews mandating a monthly grocery stipend. Her bizarre rationale was that by eating pure, expensive foods, she was practically guaranteeing a longer lifespan, thereby gifting them more precious years of her delightful presence. Has anyone ever tried to charge you a subscription fee just for the privilege of keeping them alive? 39. It takes a staggering level of delusion to try and hijack someone else's hard-earned real estate luck. A guy spent months hunting down a rent-controlled apartment in a highly desirable downtown neighborhood. The exact day he finally got the keys, his older cousin showed up with a suitcase and demanded they permanently swap leases. The cousin argued that, as a struggling local musician, he desperately needed the artistic urban vibe, while the guy with a desk job could easily survive in the boring suburbs. 40. An unexpected pet adoption quickly spiraled into a hostile financial shakedown between two brothers. One impulsively bought a massive, high-energy husky puppy without having a fenced yard or a steady income. Within 3 days, he aggressively cornered his financially stable brother, demanding he cover a $2,000 behavioral training boot camp. He framed this outrageous demand as a necessary community tax to ensure the dog didn't destroy their mother's living room during the holidays. Using a destructive puppy as a holiday hostage negotiation tactic is absolute madness. 41. When a sister asked her unemployed brother to watch her kids for 2 hours during a dental emergency, she expected basic family solidarity. Instead, he presented her with a laminated menu of premium childcare rates, including a $50 surcharge for emotional wear and tear caused by toddlers. He unironically demanded she pay his platinum tier rate upfront via Zelle before he would even allow the children inside his apartment. 42. For some reason, smart home technology brings out the absolute worst entitlement in distant relatives. A tech-savvy guy installed a premium camera system around his aging parents' house to keep them totally safe. His deeply paranoid cousin somehow found out and threw a massive tantrum, demanding the guy pay for a matching $3,000 security setup for his own rental apartment. The cousin seriously argued that protecting only the parents was blatant family favoritism and left his own apartment spiritually vulnerable to local burglars. 43. Has anyone ever tried to aggressively invoice you for a lavish party you were actively excluded from? One woman received a hostile text from her estranged cousin demanding an immediate $800 contribution toward a designer bridal dress. The truly unhinged part was that the woman hadn't even made the final guest list due to strict venue capacity limits. The bride confidently explained that while physical attendance was prohibited, financial participation in her fairy tale aesthetic was still a mandatory family obligation. 44. A perfectly functional hand-me-down laptop is apparently a massive insult to an entitled teenager with grand streaming ambitions. A generous aunt gave her nephew a solid, reliable computer for his college homework. He immediately marched to an electronics store and called her in a blind rage from the checkout line. He loudly demanded she transfer $3,000 for a dual-monitor gaming rig, claiming the basic laptop deeply offended his Twitch streamer persona and would permanently derail his future esports career. 45. Late-night food delivery apps somehow convinced a grown man that his younger sibling was a permanent, limitless food bank. He systematically ordered $90 worth of premium sushi to his own house and purposefully charged it directly to his brother's linked credit card. His completely unironic justification was a masterpiece of manipulation. He claimed his blood sugar was getting dangerously low during a gaming marathon, smoothly transforming an unauthorized charge for spicy tuna rolls into a critical medical emergency. 46. VIP concert tickets are a massive luxury most people carefully save up for, but one niece viewed her uncle as a personal ticketmaster. When a major pop star announced a stadium tour, the niece bypassed her own parents and texted her wealthy uncle an invoice for 2 front-row seats. She actually included a formal deadline, threatening to legally disown him if he didn't secure the tickets within 24 hours. Extorting a family member over pop music is a bold new frontier in generational wealth transfer. 47. If you ever want to witness pure financial madness, just watch a relative try to justify their massive credit card debt. A young professional was aggressively cornered by his older sister, who demanded he completely pay off her severely maxed-out retail card. She didn't want the clean slate to improve her terrible credit score, or responsibly buy a house. She blatantly admitted she just desperately needed the available balance zeroed out so she could instantly finance a luxury resort trip to Cabo with her friends. Would you ever fund someone's tropical vacation disguised as a debt bailout? 48. The concept of personal gambling losses rarely registers with family members who see you as an emergency bailout fund. A desperate cousin lost his entire paycheck in a high-stakes fantasy football league and immediately marched to his grandfather's house demanding full reimbursement. His core argument was that the old man's strict advice about taking calculated life risks directly inspired the disastrous bets. He essentially tried to hold a retired senior citizen financially liable for a poorly chosen offensive line. 49. Quitting a perfectly good corporate job to become a lifestyle influencer requires immense confidence, or just a deeply entitled brother. One guy abruptly resigned from his accounting firm and immediately handed his sister a 6-month survival budget he expected her to blindly fund. He argued that since she worked in marketing, she was ethically required to act as his primary angel investor until his daily vlogs about drinking iced coffee finally went viral. He treated sibling solidarity like a legally binding venture capital contract. 50. There is a special place in the Family Hall of Fame for relatives who invent fake emergencies just to test your absolute loyalty. A woman received a panicked midnight call from her brother begging for $500 to pay off a menacing tow truck driver. After she desperately wired the cash, he casually texted a photo of a brand new, highly expensive espresso machine sitting on his kitchen counter. He proudly claimed he staged the towing crisis because he knew she would never voluntarily fund his aggressive caffeine addiction. 51. A homeowner received an unexpected bill from his own sister. She painted her front door neon green, resulting in a massive fine from her local neighborhood association. Instead of paying it, she forwarded the invoice to her brother. She claimed he was entirely responsible because he failed to warn her about strict color guidelines during his visit last month. Blaming your sibling for your own terrible aesthetic choices is an incredibly bold strategy to avoid financial accountability. 52. A younger cousin went on an outrageously expensive blind date that ended disastrously. Instead of taking the financial loss, he sent a formal Venmo request to his older brother, claiming he was owed full reimbursement because the brother originally gave him the terrible advice to just be himself. He seriously argued that faulty romantic guidance was a massive breach of sibling trust that legally required a payout to cover his wasted steak dinner. 53. Visiting your parents for the holidays usually means free meals and a childhood bed. However, one guy arrived for a weekend stay only to find a printed daily rate sheet taped to his bedroom door. His father had implemented a dynamic surge pricing model, heavily taxing peak holiday weekends to offset the rising cost of turkey and municipal heating. Treating your own flesh and blood like transient hotel guests is a remarkably fast way to ensure you celebrate future holidays alone. 54. We all know that sheer panic when a relative calls crying from a hospital room. An older sister hysterically begged for $3,000 to cover immediate, life-saving reconstructive surgery after a supposed accident. The absolute betrayal set in weeks later when she showed up to a family barbecue, sporting a highly elective premium nose job. She proudly defended the blatant scam by insisting her minor deviated septum was a severe medical crisis that completely justified the lie. 55. Family lineage took a very weird turn when an uncle aggressively demanded a royalty fee from his nephew. The nephew had recently started a highly successful landscaping business, and the uncle claimed he was owed 10% of all gross profits. His reasoning? He argued that their shared entrepreneurial DNA was the sole reason for the business succeeding, making him a silent genetic partner. Trying to legally trademark your own bloodline to extort a small business owner is peak financial insanity. That wraps up our gallery of family financial disasters. But here is the real question for you. If a sibling steals your money for a luxury vacation, should you report them to the police or just handle it privately to protect the family name? Tell us your exact strategy in the comments below. Do not forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories of absolute audacity.